I first met George and Barb probably around 1985.
During that time, even back to Caesar's Palace, Barbara was always there. Remarkable young lady, still young in my opinion.
Barb was then working for AS&T, and I think George was heavily involved in AS&T. Her name at the time was Runyon, Barb Runyon.
Most of us at Fujifilm knew Barbara actually better than we knew George at that point, simply because, we always have a large booth exhibit at AS&T, and we worked with Barbara because she was worked with the exhibitors and setting up the annual conference and the big exhibits.
They just made a great team. He was sort of the out front guy, always shaking hands, welcoming everyone. And Barbara had the tough work. She had to make sure everybody got their badges and answered all the questions that there always was. So over the years, George has had great support from Barbara.
When I think of NDTMA, I think of George and Barbara.
They elevated NDTMA into a truly first-class professional society. The most observable changes were the high level of organization and professionalism.
They were always so helpful, and when you spoke with them, you felt like you had their attention and they were interested in nothing else.
And always knowing that if you had a question or you had a concern or something came up, George and Barbara were there to answer it and kind of work through it. Just amazing.
They were always present and always just so delightful and helpful with everything.
Some of my favorite memories of George and Barbara are from the times when I was running a session and the inevitable AV or IT glitch occurred and the crowd started grumbling, but before it got too out of hand, George or Barbara would spring into action and get things up and running again. They always seemed to know just how to get a laptop, software program, or a projector quickly back online before things got out of hand.
They are so soft-spoken and easygoing. George is always laughing. I have never, ever heard them grumble or complain about anything.
George and Barbara's attention to detail, their passion for making and keeping the organization running smoothly has always been impressive, to say the least.
I've never in my life seen someone so organized. The organizational skills were off the chart.
They're always working together, and their shared willingness to help the NDT industry in this organization. It's what they did together, and it was truly remarkable, them working together as a team.
That's just George and Barbara. They're sharing, caring people, and just wonderful people to know, and glad to call him a friend.
When I look at both of them, I look at dignity, I look at grace, I look at class, I look at loyalty, and ironically, not ironically, but humility as well.
What they've contributed to that organization is immense, and they're everything. They're from planning everything to getting the board members to do their jobs. It's been them.
The importance of George and Barbara, you can't even state enough how much it is. So the organization was dying. They resurrected it from the ashes.
They literally, the two of them, kept NDTMA alive and growing for, I believe, almost 28 years. It's remarkable.
In the early years, NDTMA was founded by and for predominantly testing labs who were in the pipeline testing business.
It certainly was not the organization it is today. It was a loose affiliation of mostly southern state competitors, and It was in serious financial difficulty.
NDTMA was struggling when he took over, cash-wise struggling. I mean, we just weren't a very solvent organization. And George really brought that around through great negotiations, but just bringing, understanding how to bring vendors in.
It was George's leadership and development that developed it into the truly professional and valuable organization it is today.
George was like an evangelist for NDTMA.
George obviously had a real challenge ahead of him, but he took this part-time job. It was supposed to be a part-time job. I believe it became mostly a full-time job for him. And when he first took over, we were having our annual meetings at Caesar's Palace.
George actually made the transition from moving NDTMA from the Strip to the Golden Nugget downtown. And we've been at the Golden Nugget now for quite a few years. But that transition was just handled expertly. I mean, we never missed a beat, and gained a new venue that was perfect for us and great. And I just looked at George as executing that so well and so seamlessly.
The NDTMA conference is by far one of the best groups that the Golden Nugget hosts, and that's due mostly to George, but also the attendees and the exhibitors.
NDTMA is financially successful because George really took it and nursed it to where it is.
He recruited people, he managed the exhibits, and as NDTMA's major product, the February meeting just became a superb venue.
Or suggesting that we do scholarships, helping students have scholarships and having schools apply for it was just an absolutely great idea.
But George kept NDTMA on a likable level. I'll be honest with you, it was my favorite technical meeting of the year. Always went to some of the other ones, but I really enjoyed going to NDTMA.
It's where colleagues get together, they discuss mutual issues, and it's not the typical dog eat dog industrial commercial world.
Society has their own purpose, but NDTMA, it can't be duplicated, and it won't be duplicated because it's impossible. We're part of a special organization, and
the longer you stay in NDT, the more it becomes like an extended family. And those of us that have been in it for many, many years and interfaced with people like George and Barbara, they've become part of our family. I mean,
if it wasn't for George's involvement, his leadership, and undoubting professionalism, there'd be no NDTMA today.
George Moran is one of those very special individuals that once you meet him, you think that you've known him all your life.
George is the most ethical, professional, dedicated director of any organization I've ever had the pleasure to know.
George has been the best person to work with. He has such a great personality and demeanor. He's always trying to save a buck for the association, but he doesn't do it at the expense of the attendee or the exhibitor.
He was just such a great help for everybody that served on the board and everybody that went through the chairs.
George's openness and friendly smile, I think, are one of his most endearing attributes.
He's just been amazing on keeping this organization growing seems like every year.
George just exudes warmth and welcomes everyone. He's incredibly well organized, and it is a logistics job to manage NDTMA.
I've never seen anybody work as hard and diligently as George did.
Keeping everybody in line and never getting too upset, too emotional. George is always, you know what you're going to get, always passionate and always leading with passion, but never seems to get stressed out about anything.
It's George's unflappable nature that is probably my best memories, where speakers at the conference didn't show up. And George, without a blink, suddenly filled that time with a presentation of his own.
I will never forget, I believe he gave the longest speech in ASNT history. And he held the record for being the longest presidential speech maker until Sotirios Vahaviolis was brought in as president.
He was a true mentor, especially to younger workers. George believes that everyone possesses a capacity for great courage and love, and he encouraged everyone to achieve those goals.
George encouraged me to get active on the board of NDTMA back in around year 2000, which led to me becoming president in 2005, something I was always proud of. And it was George's encouragement for me to get more active in NDTMA, and I'm most thankful to George for that.
Getting involved as an officer and eventually the president of the NDTMA was one of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had. So I'll never forget George for that.
He's also one of the humblest men I've ever met. He never wants or asks for anything for himself. And right after the 2020 conference, I was laid off, and George contacted me several times just to check on how my family and I were doing, which, man, that's just the kind of person George is. He's constantly in service to other people.
When you meet George, you watch him interact with others, it's just a constant exuding of friendship and truly liking what he did and just enjoying every aspect of it. He's really, really a remarkable person, as you well know.
He just is a very warm person, easy to talk to. And for me, it was immediate like. I mean, he was the type of person that I really enjoyed speaking to.
It was easy to become friends with George.
Certainly, congratulations, George and Barbara, on a well-deserved retirement. My sincere wishes that it brings them many more years of enjoyment.
Enjoy the time. Enjoy your time together. Enjoy retirement. It's a time in your life that you should just go out and see the world.
I'm going to miss them because it's kind of like family, and they've always treated me like family. And even though we only met once a year, it was similar to like a Thanksgiving or a Christmas. They have always made me feel like family, and I know I'm not the only one there.
I'll miss their calm demeanor, their professionalism, their effective organizational skills, and I'll miss watching George hand out silver dollars. One time he gave me one for no reason at all, just handed me one. So
I'm going to miss the calls. I'm going to miss the interaction and his laughter.
Just being able to spend good quality time with them on a personal level.
Seeing George's smile and him running around like the Energizer Bunny, just keeping everything moving and flowing, I'll miss that.
I'll miss him being at the conferences if he's not able to be there all the time, but certainly understand. But just the warm people that they both are, just missing, getting to talk to him in person, at the conference.
Just seeing him personally and being able to visit with him, and it's something I will always treasure.
My wife Becky and I are very proud to be their friends. With any luck, we will not miss them at all. We will remain friends for the rest of our lives.
So, George and Barbara, you two have just been incredibly invaluable to NDTMA. I would say you two are the heart and soul of this amazing little organization. You've pulled it together, George. You have held it together with Barbara's help, and you two are just absolutely the glue of NDTMA. Thank you.
Thank you, George and Barbara. You have meant so much to me and so many other members of NDTMA, and even those that are not members. really appreciate all you've done. Never be able to thank you enough, but I want to thank you for what you've done for NDTMA and for me.
Thank you so much for everything that you have done for NDTMA, for my company, for Becky and I. We love you very much.
George and Barbara, just wanted to thank you very much for everything that you've done.
And thank you for being a friend.
Thank you.
Thank you, George and Barbara.
Thank you, George and Barbara. I'm going to miss you.